Hello to everyone joining us. Welcome to our session today, Successful Campaign, Event, and Fundraising Strategies by Nonprofit Decision Makers Preparing for the Future. If you're joining, we're going to go ahead and get started at 3:30, but please go ahead and comment where you're from, your name, in the chat box, and you can utilize that during our session for any questions you may have. We also have a Q&A box, but say hello and let us know where you're joining from. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, hello everyone who's joining. We have a lot of people filtering in. You are here for our session, Successful Campaign, Event, and Fundraising Strategies by Nonprofit Decision Makers Preparing for the Future. If you are just joining us, you can go ahead and utilize the chat box to drop a hello in there. Let us know where you're joining from, your organization name. We'd love to hear from you to see who we have on today. This session will be recorded, so don't worry about taking any notes. Everything you hear or see today, you will receive a copy of. You're going to get a recorded copy of the presentation or the session and a copy of the presentation deck as well. So all this great information you'll be able to take with you at the end of this too. But let's go ahead and get started while we still have people joining in. So today, or let me start to get a clean recording. Sorry about that. Okay. Welcome to Successful Campaign, Event, and Fundraising Strategies by Nonprofit Decision Makers Preparing for the Future. Today, to go over the agenda, we're going to start with some welcome and introduction for our fantastic panel that we have. Then we're going to hear from our audience with some polls. We're going to hear from Boys and Girls Club of Pueblo County, a nonprofit success story. And then we're going to hear from Boys and Girls Club of the West Valley on successes that they've had recently. And then we're going to talk about building and managing highly successful campaigns, proven success steps. And then we're going to answer any questions. This is an interactive session. So during the session, if you have any questions or any comments, you make sure you utilize that Q&A box in the chat box, and we'll get your questions answered by our panel. So to start with introductions, we have Kendra Turner. She is the VP of Resource Development at the Boys and Girls Club of Pueblo County. Hi, Kendra. How are you doing today?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me, Miss Gabriella.
Welcome. And then we have Geovanny Ragsdale. She is the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of the West Valley. Hi, Geovanny.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having us be part of this program today.
Thank you for being here. And then we have Chris Fink, who is our Chief Operating Officer at Arreva. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Gabby. Thanks to Kendra and Geovanny for being here today as well.
And then my name is Gabriella Slemy. I'm the Digital Marketing Manager at Arreva, and I'm going to be moderating the session today. So we want to go ahead and just get some feedback from anyone who is on right now. You're going to see a poll pop up on your screen, but we want to know what keeps you up at night when thinking about raising money. And you can select multiple options from this poll. So is it prospecting? Is it board engagement? Who to ask? How much to ask for? Timing? Maybe relationships, who knows who, or maybe it's all of these or a combination of a few of them. But go ahead and you can select multiple of them that you find are your biggest challenges when thinking about raising money, just to kind of gauge where everyone in the room is at so we can make sure we tailor the session to who we have on. I'll give it a few more seconds because we have a lot of answers pouring in. Okay, and then just to share those results. So it's kind of across the board. A lot of you are dealing with all of these, but it's really spread out. Some prospecting, some board engagement. Well, you're at the right webinar because we're going to talk a little bit about all of this today. Okay. And then I'll turn this over to Chris.
All right, I'm just going to start real quick with one slide, and then I will let the stars of the show, Kendra and Geovanny, take over and discuss some of their personal experiences and their fundraising strategies that have been successful for them. And then we'll come back and I'll discuss a little bit more and expand on building and executing a campaign. All right, so just in super high level, building your initial campaign, you got to identify two major goals: a monetary goal and your non-monetary goals. Obviously, your monetary goal is how much you need to raise. And then your non-monetary goals are really identifying who your prospects are, getting committees together, board members together to participate in raising your money, and really executing a well-organized major donor fundraising campaign. And typically when you're establishing that monetary goal, there's a private goal internally, right, for you. That's usually close to what you're actually budgeted to raise, and then there's the stretch or the challenge of the public, and that's the public goal, and the announcement of that public amount you're trying to raise. And this is just for certain types of campaigns, not all campaigns, but general capital campaigns, etc. Usually you don't announce publicly your campaign until you've raised approximately about 50%, at least in my experience from organizations, about 50% of that goal, because you want psychologically people to feel like, okay, if they give, there's likelihood that you're actually going to meet that goal. But anyway, well, I'll talk a little bit more after Kendra and Geovanny speak about strategies and things you can do to actually execute the campaign using software solutions. And from there, I will pass it to you, Gabby.
All right, so let's go over to Kendra and hear about some successes that she's had with Boys and Girls Club of Pueblo County.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kendra Turner. I am the VP of Resource Development at Boys and Girls Clubs of Pueblo County. We're, for Boys and Girls Clubs in Colorado, probably about a mid-sized organization. We have 9 clubhouses right now across our county, and we've got a budget of $4.5 million. For some perspective on that, I joined the board of directors. That's actually how I came to this role in January of 2018. And at that time, this organization only had a budget of $800,000. We've had tremendous growth in the last 6 years. I think COVID kind of helped a lot of that. People started to understand what Boys and Girls Clubs really does in our community. And so we've undergone a lot of growth. And of course, that means we need a lot more money. Some backstory, we had a fantastic professional here for probably 4 years of the 6 years that I was here. And after she left, we've gone through four other people in this position, at which point I came in. So, when you have a couple of years of possibly disjointed leadership in this role, data becomes your best friend, right? People, that's what they leave behind is information. So Arreva does a great job of keeping notes and really specific information about who gave, why they gave, what they like, what they don't participate in, who we've lost, a lot of great longitudinal data. So having said that, I have, as a member of the board of directors, always sat on the resource development committee. I've been doing this for 6 years with this organization. It's been a pleasure. So the first slide we're going to talk about is about our Champions of Youth event. And so we run this gala. We call it a gala, but I use that term pretty loosely. The town I live in is not fancy. It's not fancy. We invite kids, and the kids get dressed up, which is really exciting. But this is our flagship event. When I first attended this event, it was in 2017. I was not on the board of directors. I was just a donor. They invited me to come. And it was small. I want to say maybe 250 people there. And they were raising $25,000 a year consistently on this event. It's unique for our town. So we do invite club kids. It used to be a few from every clubhouse. And so it was, 40, 50 kids. Now that we're really big, it's about 80 children that we invite with their parents to come to this event. So they make up a portion of the guests. And it's really a threefold event. So we take up the convention center now. We sold 670 seats this year, which was phenomenal. A lot of money, exactly. We went from charging, $50 ticket to $150. It's unlike anything else in this town. Okay, the kids get up, they accept their award. Here you see a picture of this is the university president in town, Armando. He's the one kind of kneeling down. He gives away a scholarship to our youth of the year, and so we invite him to hand out the awards to the little kids as well. They come up on stage, they accept it, and they walk down a whole little red runway all the way through the crowd. And people get all excited. And then, so it is the pinnacle of recognition, right, for our organization, for our youth. It also educates the community about what we do, right? So we talk about our priority areas, why these kids are getting awards. Maybe they're great in healthy habits or academics, or if they're teenagers, youth of the year, and really presenting their speeches that they compete with. They tell our story way better than we ever could, as a staff person. So it's an education piece for the community, and then it's a fundraiser, right? So starting way back in 2017 at $25,000, we this is the gross total, so don't get too excited, but $196,000 this year. 160 of that was profit. And so when we first started, we were doubling every year. We were, working up, and then COVID hit. We got really lucky. We do this event in March, and so we were the last event before everything shut down. And then we postponed it until June and had it outdoors the following year. So we did not miss a beat. We've never gone a year without it. And we did keep the goal pretty steady during that time. This year, I pushed us a little harder. Even my CEO, who is the epitome of, pushing those goals, just super ambitious. She said, I think sponsorships, we could do 80. And I said, I think we could do 90. And we did 98 this year in just sponsorships alone. So this is our invitation. It's nothing fancy. We don't have a marketing department. This is Canvas special here. If you're a Boys and Girls Club, this is free to you. Next slide, you'll see we kind of break our goals down so that they're manageable. Okay, so here's all of our sponsors. Sponsorship goal, like I said, was $90,000. Tickets and tables, we price those, like I said, $150 a person. A table of 10, $1,600, and a VIP table. All that means is you get some wine and treats. It doesn't cost us anything extra. It's donated, $1,800. At this event, there is a formal ask, and that money, we count that toward our individual donation goal, or that line item. So it doesn't actually go into special events. It is included in this 196 total that you see, but it's not something that we count as part of the special event. On the back of the invitation, we had a host committee, and this was something that we kind of tried to do a couple of years ago, and we're finally getting really successful at it. We never really saw the point in engaging a host committee. We always had a working committee. Host committee, we ask them to do one thing. They come to one meeting. That is all. And it is drinks and appetizers at a board member's house. We tell them what the event is. We put their name on the invitation, and we ask them to fill a table or tell their friends. And that's all it is. It's a pretty soft ask. The mayor always does it. Different government, whether they're county commissioners, city council people, people who maybe sit on, really nice boards around town besides our own. Our board is the best, but, art center, people who may not normally engage with us. And so we had 15 couples, 30 people on that host committee this year. It's incredibly successful. So successful that, now we're turning down board members who say, hey, you could do, host committee next year for Champions of Youth. It's a great way to engage people from outside of our normal circle. Okay, next slide. I think you'll see, so our goals broken down. Tickets and tables, $36,000 was our goal. And then underneath it, you'll see the actual. So we did $45,000. Every single thing we exceeded the goal in, with the exception of the PAL raise, which was interesting. I wanted to stay. This is a public goal, right? We put it up on the screen. We do start it at, $7,000, people who pony up to get that started. And we have people planted in the room for the paddle raise. It's actually concurrent with text to give. We used to do this completely text to give. And we kind of feel like people in our community were getting burned out on it after 2020 and, all the technology. It is still an option. We do it together. Some people text, some people do paddle raise, but we have people planted in there to keep the energy up. And we fell a little short. It was like $27,000. I don't worry about it. Once the 5 minutes is over, we just continue with the program. That dropped in the middle. And so it's right after the Youth of the Year speech. So you could see Sylvia here on the screen. This was Sylvia Tennant was our Youth of the Year this year. She's fantastic. She gave a really passionate speech. Everyone loved her. And so she actually has a twin sister that attends the club. And so she got to kind of be a part of that moment with her. And so right after the Youth of the Year gives this incredible speech, she gets a standing ovation, then we do the ask. Okay, and so that's when the energy is highest in the room. At this point, all of the little children have walked the stage. We do community awards after, so there are still more awards. It's not like people can just get up and leave. There's plenty of people in the room who still are waiting to be recognized, and so no one's escaping. So Sylvia gets up, we do that. And it was like $27,000. But the incentive of that, right, is the gentleman sitting next to me who was with a company said, we'd like to finish it, right? So it's very rare that you're going to walk out of that room, especially if you're so close that someone isn't going to call you the very next day and say, I'm going to finish that. And I got really lucky. He did it right after. I didn't have to wait till the next day. But sometimes even falling short a little bit can be an incentive in the room for a donor. So everything else, we knocked it out of the park this year. And this is the event, okay? When we talk about board engagement, this is the event that we kind of put all of our eggs in this basket for the board. When I first joined the board, we did about 4 events a year and people were very burned out. It's like by the time you finish one and the board wanted to start on another one, everyone was like, I already asked somebody, or, it just got to be a lot. We still do those events, but we've really changed who's involved in those events. Okay, so this is the big board push. And then the other things we do during the year, which is a spring campaign, that's mostly parents and staff. We do a golf tournament, which is a private foundation who donates that to us. We just volunteer for that, no big thing. And then we do, which I'm sure a lot of you do, is like a free breakfast or lunch where you do an ask. And that is a lot more community involvement, some board, but it is on the opposite end of the calendar in the fall. So this is really the big ask of the board, and they come through for us. This is also a great tool to just like engage new board members. When I left the board, we were struggling. After 2020, a lot of people who had a lot of tenure on the board left. And this event is a great way to engage people. They're excited about it. You connect with them, talk to them. And then now our board is stronger than ever. I wouldn't even be invited to join the board now. It is incredible. So that's this event a little bit in a nutshell. Around the data that Arreva provides. So we actually log all of these donations exactly for what they're for. Okay, so like I said, some of these go into the individual fund where it says specifically CYD, that's what we call it, Champions of Youth Dinner, CYD ask. We know that they gave that individual contribution specifically for that event and how that ask was presented. Patch donations, like that just came in the mail, it's just a regular donation. We don't really, market pitch per se, but we do actually take all of those. I regret that I can't attend. I sent, a $500 check. We preload that into that pitch so that it bumps up those numbers ahead of the actual event in the room, on top of talking to individual donors and saying, will you commit to doing $2,500 paddle raise in front of everyone live? Okay, so those two things kind of work together. We do run an auction with this event, and previous to coming to Boys and Girls Clubs, I did fundraising for a Catholic school in town, teeny tiny school, and we had a fantastic auction. And I will tell you that when I came to the 2017 event, I was like this is your auction. Like I was a little bit sad. I was like, you're the Boys and Girls Clubs. You can like go totally crazy. And it's kind of my pet project. That raised $19,000 this year. And maybe that's not very exciting if you're in a big city, but for us, that's pretty good. We had a ball signed by the entire Denver Nuggets team that we auctioned off. So it was pretty exciting. We run that online. And so that's not something we always did, but we find that this is a great strategy. So it's an online auction. It opens on a Monday. Our event always happens on a Thursday evening. There's no school on Fridays in Pueblo County, Colorado. Oh, it's a terrible, terrible thing. But Geovanny's laughing. I don't believe in the 4-day school week, but it's great for us because we could do fun things with kids on Fridays. So Thursday night, we host this event, and then the auction goes all the way into the following Monday, closes about 7 p.m. And we display it in the room. So people in the room have something to do during cocktail hour, but people who are not there can still participate and donate. And we don't have to deal with collecting money that night and trying to get everyone out the door. Or we had a very long day. We just pack it up and take it back to the office, and that's that. So we kind of break our goals down that way. And then in terms of reports, so here's what I'll say that I did really like about the reports that I was pulling year over year when we got started with this event is when you pull reports in Arreva, right? If they're preview, print preview version, you can click on them and you can actually pick out errors. So you can imagine if 3 people have had this job in the last, year and a half, things kind of got mushy. And so the ability to just click on it, see exactly the transaction, exactly the person say, I know that this isn't right. This doesn't make any sense. And to be able to correct that, flawless. So we found 79 items related to Champions of Youth that needed a little bit of a correction to get that data just where it was, and you can find it just like that. The other thing I will say is we batch our acknowledgements. So when you mark something a gift as acknowledged, you can actually batch those. My special events person, Cheryl, who's literally my right arm. If I chopped it off, I don't know what I would do. Cheryl pulls all of that with the letters that we have in there, prints them all. We have complete records of all of those things from Arreva, and then has those signed and sent out. Makes it very easy, and that's same for text, right? All the EOY segmentation step. The picture here, I'll just say that this woman here with the yellow jacket, that's the mayor, front row. She's the first female mayor that we've had, and so she's been coming for a few years, and her predecessor did fantastic stuff.
Kendra, I do have one question for you. Being in such a small town, it's 2 parts. How did you get attendees to be able to, make that jump from a $50 ticket to a $150 ticket? And how did you get so many people to attend?
It was incremental. So I will say that. So, maybe we started at 75 and then we moved up to 100. And it's interesting because during COVID, especially, as prices started to increase, other people around town started to increase. So you don't have to feel badly about that, right? The top tier in our town is $150. And that's kind of where the university has always been. And we just worked our way up gradually year after year to that point. You're going to make the most sales, right, of tables to corporations. And so there are plenty of supporters in town. It doesn't actually matter what the price of the table is, right? Their standard donation is a table. And sometimes you might get a little bit of pushback on it. I think county commissioners is a good example. They were like, it seems like it's a little more expensive than last year. And I was thinking, well, our contract at the convention center is a little more this year as well. And that's okay. They moved down to 6 seats, but for the most part, most companies are going to say a table's a table. They're not going to care about that. What is interesting is we have never broken 550. That's always been our goal. And this year, I don't know what it was, but we eventually had to start turning people away. This is the maximum we could fit in that room. And we have outgrown other spaces that we've tried to use. I think it's interesting. Every year we perfect this event just that much more. And it really is a word of mouth situation, right? You want that experience. And what my CEO always says is every single person there needs to feel like they had a great time and they felt special. So ahead of the event, who's on the guest list? You assign the board. I want you to say hello to these 5 people, introduce them to a couple people, make sure they feel great. At the end of the night, board members should not be walking right out the door, or staff. You need to visit with all of those people. And something that I always say I need to do better is I need to look at that guest list. I need to remember every single person who was there when I see them. I need to talk to them about, did you have a great time? What did you think? And we do a lot of evaluation around it as well, is what I would say. So we do a formal survey to all the parents and children who came, our board, host committee, working committee, all the staff that work the event, everyone. I want to know every single thing you didn't like, every single thing you liked, but you think we could do better. Suggestions, I don't care. I literally have 200 surveys by the time this is done that we sort through, and we begin the process of this earlier every year. So this year, what really set us apart, I believe, we used to start this like September, October. We started in June. This year, I will start in May, and I'm not exaggerating. By the end of this month, we will already have a meeting about who's going to be on that committee, who I need to talk to, who was new this year that I need to really build a relationship with. It's all about planning and evaluation. And so the more special you make every single adult feel in that room, and the child, right? That's what the adults like about it, is that the children feel really special. You need to keep them happy. We have a candy bar that a candy company in town fully stocks. We had a magician. We've got, a fun photo booth. The kids need to be happy. The adults need to feel like they're witnessing something magical. And so we put all of that into this. I think if the kids weren't there, we'd probably sell half the tickets, honestly. All right, this is the dashboard that I give to my boss, the CEO, and the board of directors. This is, so I started this job in September 11th, in fact, of this fall. And last year, they fell short in corporate gifts and individual gifts. As you know, end of the year is like the busiest time. So we don't necessarily expect in Q1 for like everything to be exciting, but we crushed all of our special event goals. And so that looks great. So I break all of this down, and this is all data from Arreva. And then I provide them with these 2 reports. So on top, this is a total, sorry, the little header fell off. It's down at the bottom. New versus existing donor comparison report. So this shows you year over year for 5 years, new donors, existing donors, how much money you've got, and then the donor retention report. And this is actually really cool because you can click on every single one of these blue things and you can see who did you lose, who is new, is that true? Yes, that's true. And then you need to follow up with those people. If they disappeared, you need to know why. So sometimes that's they were making a monthly contribution, their credit card expired, right? Or they usually give it a certain event and they didn't go this year. Okay, we need to find out why. So you can really pull a lot of details just by clicking on those, but I include those for the board so that they understand exactly how many donors we have and what that work looks like. Okay, where we're at in the year. Have people who gave last year, have they come back? And if they haven't, what are we doing to make sure that they do? So those 2 reports go with my dashboard and are presented my supervisor and the board. This, what you're looking at, is a gift transaction report that's just recurring. Okay, and the reason this is important, our budget, only 8% of it is individuals and special events, not very much. We have a ton of government funding that helped us grow. Okay, so even though we're making more money in individuals and special events than we ever have, it looks smaller, right, relative to our budget because we have so much grant funding coming in. We know that this is our biggest opportunity for growth. BGCA will tell you all the time, individuals, individuals, individuals. In a smaller community, that's hard. And for 50 years, we've been operating on grant money and killing it. So I'm not going to be mad about that at all. I don't think anyone should be, but this report helps me determine exactly, and I color code it, who's board, who's recurring giving, who's a parent, who's an employee, how are we related to these people? And in pulling this report this year, only 2 are parents. We don't charge anything for our services. $0, and only 2 parents are giving to us on a monthly basis. Like, an outrageous. So, right, bing, the spring campaign this year is all about parent engagement, and it's not a monetary goal. What does a ton of money from government mean? What percentage? Ooh, I can tell you that. So federal grants are 41% of our income. State grants are 8%, and city and county are 6%. It's a really big piece of it. It's more than that. So our organization uses 21st century grants. That is federal. It's the only federal money that's can specifically serve after school. And so it's a 5-year grant. If you do it right, you get 3 years and you get 2 extended years if you're doing everything that you're supposed to do. And we have had tremendous success with that. We just got funded for a new one last month. And so that helps us kind of start a new facility, get into a community or neighborhood that we weren't in originally, and then build sustainability. Obviously, state, city, county, that's a lot of ARPA funds, right, that are gone now. So, but don't worry, the state of Colorado doesn't like math or science scores, so we just got 3 new extension sites with some of that money too. So we work really hard at that. I know that that doesn't work for everyone, but for our community, we're a smaller city with a lot of crime and underserved populations. So federal, state, local governments want to invest in keeping young people occupied in positive things, kind of turn around trajectories around that. That's why. So anyway, we are focusing on parents. It is not necessarily monetary. It's, we want to have 100 parents in this month sign up for recurring giving, and hopefully that carries for years. Once they sign up for that $10 a month, $40 a month, that money continues, and we don't even have to think about it, right? And we engage with them on a regular basis. So all of our staff helps, kind of cultivate that relationship. Okay, so yes, employees are managing this. This is not a board-driven thing at all. We are doing social media around it and some online information, but it's about employees completely pushing that out to families and to their network. We do invest about $2,000 a child, and that is, so we serve 2,000 kids on that $4 million, so about $2,000 a child, and that's what we're communicating to parents. This is the investment that we provide every year in your child, and what portion of that would you be willing to back in us? I think I've definitely run a time limit. I apologize.
Oh, that was great. Thank you, Kendra. Okay, Geovanny, let's hear from you.
Well, good afternoon. Kendra, you are just a firecracker. So earlier when I went like this, I wasn't referencing money. This is what we do in our club. We do snappy fingers for just giving some shine, right, to people in that regard. You are a firecracker, and I love your energy. The Boys and Girls Club movement across our nation, for those of you on the call that don't know very much about us, right, there's 5,000 clubs across the nation and around the world in military bases, and we also have our Native services that may exist in certain Native American reservations or communities as well. My name is Geovanny Ragsdale. I'm the CEO and president for the Boys and Girls Club of the West Valley, which is a small little chunk of about 4 million people in the San Fernando Valley, part of Los Angeles County. So our region as an organization is a little bit different than what you heard from Kendra. earlier, we actually are in a very dense area. There is 18 federated boys and girls clubs in LA County alone. And so we kind of work in certain territories and areas, and we try and be respectful of one another and engage with different people. But the donor area is very, very critical because there are donors who donate to several boys and girls club organizations in the county. And so there is coordination and opportunity in those initiatives. I came on board about 3 years ago to the organization right before its 30th anniversary. And we were literally on a day-to-day cash flow management. We were in a dire situation coming somewhat into the out of COVID period at the March of 2021. And so for us being able to assess who were our donors, what was the information, what was going on was very, very critical. When I arrived here at the organization, our donor database was literally on one computer, which was hardwired. It wasn't a laptop. Nobody had access unless they were at that computer in the office. It was just unbelievable. So unfortunately, during the COVID era, there were a lot of gifts that didn't get entered. There was a lot of data that was like stacked up on paper that, you know, someone had because they were working from home, but never came in to get it actually entered into the system. So Arreva was a godsend for us when we came across the platform and the system, because it really allowed us to better coordinate the work that happened between the CEO office, the philanthropy office, and the other members of our team in fundraising initiatives and activities, because it took us into a cloud-based environment. It helped us transition information, add information in, and be able to kind of engage where we were and where we were headed. I believe my team is fortunate to have me as the CEO, and that's just because I come from a fundraising background. I am a CFRE and have spent 20 years raising dollars around the world and in higher education and in the hospital environment. So it's part of my love and my passion of the relationships that we get to build and develop and engage. Because at the end of the day, right, the data is only as good as your people are at putting the information in and pulling the information out. So bad data in, bad data out. And that is the important thing for all of us to remember. But Arreva definitely makes it very easy and seamless for you to work in teams in those environments. So I can go in and enter in notes of donors that I've met with as the CEO. And my chief philanthropy officer is able to see that and be like, hey, I saw that you met with so-and-so, right? Because life gets busy sometimes and we're all moving a lot of different areas and activities. So for us at our club, we are 10 sites, right? So we're one club with 10 locations, of which 3 of our sites are funded through state grants. 3 of them are funded through federal 21st century grants, and 4 of them are privately funded through private foundations, donations, corporate sponsorships, and other engagements that we do. So today, I'm happy to say, hey, we've kind of turned a corner a little bit of where we're at. We were one of the 62 clubs that were Mackenzie Scott recipients of a grant in 2022. And again, just honored to be at the helm of the organization and to be making the changes and the activities that flag someone to be like, we want to know more and make that investment and that connection with our organization. So we've gone from day-to-day cash flowing to, having a reserve, initiating an endowment, being able to have enough cash flow for 6 months in the bank, and then continue to move our programs and our activities forward in that regard. So I want to share what we've done a little bit with events, which is a little bit different. We kind of swung the pendulum in the other direction, right? We typically would host 3 events a year, and we have swung the pendulum to do 10 mini events throughout the year. And so all of our events are intended to have no more than 100 people, usually more around the 75 to 80, where we can really engage in that personal engagement connection with the individuals present at our events and in our activities. And it also gives our board a little bit of kind of doing the, hey, I really want to champion the golf tournament, or I really want to champion the youth of the year, or I really want to champion the Smart Girls Table Talk Tea. It lets them connect with the event that they like the most instead of trying to push everybody into one single event during the year. So just a little bit of a different environment than what we're at. And Here you're seeing our calendar for 2024. It's part of our engagement information that we give to prospect donors and our current supporters to share with others who we are, what we do, what our demographics are. So there's 3 other pages to this document that exist that, if you'd like them, let us know and we'll send you a copy of it. But the system that Arreva has really made this very seamless for us and easy to be able to engage and strategize on how we can serve our community and make it easier to inform about the event, notify about the sponsorships, be able to collect on those, and let them do it at the time that's convenient to them, right? It doesn't have to be a phone call between 9 and 5 p.m. when I'm in the office, kind of thing of engaging in those areas. We've moved to the idea of having our big gala events as our big 5-year kind of engagements, right? So we hosted a Denim and Diamonds event to celebrate our 30th anniversary, and we're already like, what's going to be that 35-year? What is it that we're going to put our buckets around and engage our donors and supporters for one big event in that year, and just have that little ebb and flow that gives you hey, there's a lot of these great smaller events where you can do a lot of fundraising and fundraising, but the first purpose, right, for us is a lot of fundraising. Coming out of pandemic, we lost a lot of donors. And so this is our way of trying to re-engage and reconnect with the community to be able to know the impact that they can have beyond, the big grants and monies that we are recipients of in those arenas as well. And the programs, that they have in the system of Arreva makes it really easy to be able to like copy, edit, and adjust year after year or event after event. So when you're a small, lean team of 3 people, it really helps facilitate that information and be able to track the data very easily and seamlessly in that regard. So I'm going to walk you through a couple of our events. Our first one, very similar to Kendra, right, is our Youth of the Year event. This is a national program that Boys and Girls Clubs of America offers. And so we all run these programs at our local levels, and our winners move on to regional levels sometimes or state levels, then, regional levels into the national level. But this is also for us a signature event. And again, it's where the kids and the donors kind of come together and collide, and they love it. And, we've coming out of the pandemic, we had to play around a little bit with it. 2 years ago, we hosted it on a Thursday night because we're thinking, how do we get the business people there and the supporters there? And it was really hard for our parents and our kids to make it because of traffic and other issues. They'd RSVP'd and then they didn't show up. And it was very disappointing to a lot of our funders being like, why are there only 5 kids here and you serve 3,000 kids a year? What's going on, right? And so this last year, we transitioned and took the pendulum in the other direction and hosted it as a brunch on a Saturday morning. And that brought out the families. I mean, this was where they came, they engaged, they connected. We had about 80 kids and families there. We had, the supporters. So we almost doubled the amount of people that were present. Our event for this one is really where we talk to our corporate supporters that when they support the Youth of the Year event, they're really supporting our leadership and character development initiatives and programs throughout the whole year. One of the things that we've created is what's called the Corporate Championship Program, which allows a corporation to kind of do a one and done, right? They do a $5,000, a $10,000, a $20,000 gift, and that kind of guarantees them which are the events you want to be more highlighted in than others. So in some of them, they may get a table. In some of them, they might get 1 ticket or 2 tickets, right? And they get to pick and choose that. But it makes it easier for us and for them to not have to be nickel and diming them throughout the year. But they also get recognition across all of our web, our social, our newsletters, all of our events. They get recognized as part of that corporate championship group. 3 years ago when we launched this program, there was 5 companies in this group, and today there's almost 21, right? So we continue to grow and expand those initiatives and activities. If you can go to the next slide, I'm going to share with you guys a little bit about our Youth of the Year sponsorships. And so again, multi-channel communication is super, super important in how we communicate, right? So we have our web platform, but we also have the hard copy document that the old school person can still walk in with their friend and be like, here, I want want you to know about this and support this initiative and activity. So again, this is focused towards those who really love what we do in our Youth of the Year leadership programs, Torch Club, Keystone initiatives, helping to support our kids to go on advocacy days for our national activities, as well as the Keystone Conference once a year. And they can see that those dollars are going to something very specific. So as we start to see, right, the shift of donors that we're working with, the younger generation, the Z generation, the Y generation, they don't want to just give to the black hole. They don't want to give to the unrestricted budget and trust that you're going to make the best decision. No, they want to give to something very tangible and specific. And so this is our way of trying to kind of give them that of like, this is how you support the development of leadership and character in the kids that we serve and the programs that we do year round in those activities, which include our Youth of the Month recognitions and then our competition into Youth of the Year. So it's been a fun event to engage and connect with. The second event I want to share with you guys is our Tee Off for Kids Golf Classic. So for a couple of years prior to the pandemic, similar to Kendra, we would have the Wells Fargo Bank Foundation would host the golf tournament, and we would just provide the volunteers, and it was easy peasy. And then the pandemic happened, and that kind of stopped. And so we had two board members and our Wells Fargo champion who said, hey, we'll still come together. We'll create a task force and we'll take this on. So they've been rebuilding this program over the last 3 years. And Arreva's been on the forefront with us in this arena, right? So it's been fun to see the engagement that's happened where, you know, our first year was low attendance, low sponsorship. It was just a struggle of a year for us. Year two, coming out of the pandemic, high sponsorship dollars for our sports and recreation program because we branded this event to support those initiatives, right, of our sports and rec areas that we do. But we still had low attendance. And this third year, our pendulum has swung in the other direction where we had a high attendance, but our sponsorships, because of our corporate championship program, is what we've learned, right, kind of shifted in a little bit of a different area. So we're still trying to find our sweet spot with this event, but certainly the fact that, you know, we've been able to grow the attendance, the engagement, the surveys coming back from the event, which Arreva's communications channel, right, makes it easy to send those out to the participants who were there and be able to do a survey and collect that information straight into their record is really, really beneficial for us. But again, our website, if you go to our website and go through the areas, right, it's a simple widget that gets pulled out of Arreva into our system. Thank you. I forgot we did put the registration form in here. So you can see the kind of like the PDF copy, the hard copy that goes out and that's created that shares everything. And then, you know, what the registration widget looks like on the website that makes it very easy for individuals to sign up for which level they want to do. And then it precedes them to share who are the names that are coming for their foursomes or their group and engagement activities. So it's a very seamless single data entry point, right? And that's, I think, one of the things I love the most. It puts the power in the donor's hand to give you their guest names, and that goes into the system, and you're not having to have another spreadsheet and activity of engagement and communication. The third event I'm going to take you guys to is an inaugural event. This is the first year that we hosted it this month. It's our Table Talk Tea, and this was very specifically geared to raise dollars in support of our Smart Girl program. Now, Smart Girls program is also a national program of Boys and Girls Clubs of America. That is geared for 4th graders through 12th graders and being able to help them understand how to make choices and decisions as they, you know, transition life and grow up and you know, it's a hard dark knock life, right, as you come into middle school, and that's what this program is intended to do. And it was just incredible. We had 96 women at this event, 3 men at the event that supported. We did a panel conversation over the tea time to talk about, you know, different professions, different areas. How did you get there? What do you do? how do you handle balancing life and work, and how do you handle some of those challenges? So fun event, for sure. And the sponsorship area, was really easy and engaging for us. And again, being able to utilize our marketing, our information, the widget, and just bringing it all together in a multi-channel area of activity. One of the things that our team really loves about the system also is that if you have like an exclusive sponsorship option, you can kind of mark it when it's sold out and it's no longer available, kind of thing. And so their system makes it easy to be able to engage in those ways and activities. But again, we have the forms and the old school area that combines with the web aspects and activities, that makes that seamless connection and engagement for our sponsors and our supporters. This event, I think, was one of the funner parts, was the table sponsors. Part of the privilege of sponsoring a table at $300 was that you got to decorate your table. And so it was fun to see some of the ladies that did that, and that, just the things that came out. There was a Dalmatian table, there was an Asian table, there was a safari table. I mean, it just made the room so lively and so different. And then we partnered with our local women's club here in Canoga Park for this event. So it was just, again, everybody's like, what's the date for next year? We want to get it on our calendars. And so this is definitely an event that had been in the eye of my chief philanthropy officer pre-pandemic. And then the pandemic happened and it kind of got on pause, and we were able to kind of revive the concept and the idea of bringing that back out. But again, we've really appreciated, I think Kendra shared some of the things that I love, right? Being able to pull the numbers and click on those numbers and understand who are the people behind the numbers in a very seamless area, and being able to utilize the widgets through their event management portal that Arreva offers has made it very easy and seamless, and just pretty awesome for us to engage in those areas. So thanks for letting me share a little bit of what we've done. Oh my goodness, I forgot I had two more slides here. I'm going slower than I should have. I'm so sorry, Chris. We use our general online donation, right? Activities on our website. We've incorporated videos into it. So we have our Youth of the Year from previous years kind of doing her appeal and why it's important to support after school programs. So you can really manipulate the opportunities of people to give online in a way that really connects in a motivational, inspirational way for them. When they're like, oh yeah, someone told me to come here, I'm now here, what's this? Click, you're hearing a student share their story, really makes an impact and an engagement, and then that flows into those areas. And one of the biggest things that we've been focusing on when I came on board was the individual giving. How do we help level out, right, the percentage of where our gifts come? And so if you go to the next page where we have our widget for our donations, one of the things that we've incorporated in there, there's really three things that I'm really proud of us kind of thinking through and doing. One is assessing funky numbers like $42 and $84 a month. And the reason being, if you calculate that times 12, you get to $500 or $1,000, which is the cost for either a summer program sponsorship of a child at $42, or right, $1,000 a year to sponsor a child through the program year round. And so it allows people to make those gifts, to make them reoccurring on a monthly or quarterly basis, and create a very seamless engagement in that regard. And it's just been a way that we've been working towards growing our reoccurring individual donation, along with that $10, $25, and $100 options that are a little bit different. But it's a great conversation starter and engagement for us to have funky numbers in that way that really speak to our budget and what it costs us to do what we do for kids whom we serve around. I think that's my last slide, right, Gabrielle?
Yes, thank you so much. That was great, Geovanny.
Yeah, it was.
All right, Chris, do you want to go ahead and talk about some campaign
All right. Yeah, and
management tips?
Geovanny, do not apologize. I could have listened to you and Kendra all day. So thanks for sharing everything. And thank you so much for both of you taking the time to share your strategies and insights. I mean, it's so valuable. And I think I can pull this off in 9 minutes. I'll see. Might be a new record, but I'll try and get through this as fast as I can. And but I think the rock stars today, Kendra and Geovanny, got what they wanted across, which is the most important. So I'll go through this quickly. If you have any questions about anything we're talking about, this is recorded, and we can answer any questions too or expand on anything I'm talking about. Is my audio okay? They said it's a little, we're good? Okay, sweet. Someone just said it was slow. All right. Oh, okay. So in terms of executing just any sort of real major fundraising initiative, whether it's a campaign, Kendra mentioned she has a parent and staff campaign, right? Where you're going to probably have to walk through some of these steps that I'm talking about. And these are just things to think about. I'm sure some of you already know a lot about this, but I just want to talk about some of the basics of implementing a major donor or a real large fundraising initiative. I mean, really, the first step is leveraging your existing data and hopefully some external data like prospect research data to really identify which donors have the highest capacity and propensity to give to your organization, right? And I have had clients tell me they've done this before. You don't want to take the phone book or phone directory and just start, entering records into your database and hope they're going to give you money. You want to be more targeted to that, and also something that you're going to really have to rely on when you're identifying and segmenting your prospects. And this is particularly important with acquiring new donors is and new donor acquisition, which by the way, new donor acquisition and retention are not doing well right now. Year to year, I think overall they said across all nonprofits, donor retention and new donor acquisition are down 20%. So having clean data, Geovanny touched on this earlier. I don't know if you heard her say that, garbage in, garbage out. You're not going to be able to segment your lists and identify who your potential donors are if you don't have clean data. And that's one of the biggest issues we see with our clients is just having continuity in the way data is entered into the system. And here at Arreva, we give people tons of free videos and training and technical support and client success people to help our clients be successful. But I also highly recommend creating a procedures manual internally. It won't take very long. How do I put a gift in? How do I put a person in? It's going to go a long way into helping you have that clean data, which will allow you to do that analysis and segmentation, which is the next step, which is why is segmentation important? I mean, anytime you segment and communicate with supporters or potential donors, right? It opens that door for a deeper connection and increased emotional, right? Personalization and connection. When you tie, and Geovanny just talked about this, when you tie their donation, their support to the impact it's going to have, like she had on her recurring donation form, it's just they're going to be more likely to give to you because they feel like this is what the effect my money is going to have, right? And there's many different segments you could look at in terms of how you're going to tailor that messaging based off with our capacity to give. Relationships with others was talked about. Does your system allow you to easily track relationships between people? Having those connections can help you in so many different ways, particularly to know others who might be able to support you and having insight and intelligence on what their potential capacity is to give and what their affinity is to give to your cause, right? But there's also ways of getting information like this through external sources like prospect research firms. We partner with two companies called Donor Search and Wealth Engine. They can supplement the data that you have with their own data. They have wealth data, real estate information. They can get information on donations they've given to other organizations and supplement that, so you can see it. Have they given to organizations like yours, and if so, how much? Are they part of it? They can also tell you if they're part of other boards for other nonprofits, or they've had volunteer history. It's really interesting. So that's something to consider as well. And hopefully you have a solution that allows you to integrate that prospect research data into your own existing database to make an informed decision about segmenting and defining capacity and propensity to give, right? Creating those compelling targeted marketing campaigns that resonate with the right audience. You want to develop content to communicate your mission and your impact and the importance of that to the donor, right? There's a great example. I don't know if you could send that in a chat, Gabby, but Boys and Girls Club of Salt Lake has a great job. Again, going back to what Geovanny's point of tying impact to the donation is they have a great impact statement. It's an infographic on their website at Boys and Girls Club of Salt Lake to tell their supporters what impact their donations are having and what they're doing at their organization. It's a great impact statement. You should all check it out. All right, and then digital marketing channels. I mean, you all hopefully know you should leverage your social media channels like FB, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. And email marketing, online advertising to raise awareness, collaborating with influencers and partners. Do you have those connections I talked about earlier? Those relationships are important because Do they have relationships with corporate partners or potential corporate partners that align with your cause and what to expand your reach, right, and acquire new donors, which is important for acquisition, right? All right, if we go to the next slide, identifying prospects.
Chris, we just have a couple
Yeah, go
questions
ahead.
coming up about it. So I want to touch, can you
Sure.
speak a little bit? There's some questions about different platforms of migrating data to Exceed further. And they just want to know, is Blackbaud's Razor's Edge we've ever migrated data from? Any other platforms that we've migrated data from in the past?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, we have done data migrations from pretty much every product out there at this point, including custom solutions, Excel spreadsheets, RENXT, Donor Perfect, Loomerang. We've migrated data from all Salesforce, everything. We've seen it all. We have a whole data migration team. If you're actually interested in looking at some Arreva solutions, one of the processes that we do during the sale, prior to you signing anything with us, is to look at your data, have our data migration team look at it, and come up with a data migration level of effort it would take to actually migrate that data. So we all walk in hand together, knowing, this is how long it's going to take, this is what it's going to cost. And we also uncover many things during that data migration quote, like, there's, it looks like you have X number of records, you really need to bring them all over, and looks like you've got 40,000 appeal codes. Do you really need that many? So there's lots of opportunities during that data migration to cleanse your data, because the biggest thing for us is that when you move to us from another solution, we want you to be primed and ready to go as soon as you go live with our solution. So we take a pride and a lot of time and effort in our data migrations. All right, anything else, Gabby? You're good?
Yeah, there was a couple questions. I wanted to get them in there while we had
Keep going if you want. You want to keep, no? You want to wait?
There is one question for Kendra,
Okay.
but Kendra, how large is your database, and how many donor records, I think is the question.
Oh, I'd have to pull a report on like total, but I did just pull, I think, a 3-year report. So this fiscal year, last fiscal year, and the year before, I think I had about 780 records of individuals.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Gabby? We're good?
I think those are all the questions for right now.
Okay, I'll keep going. How many records for Geovanny?
We have a little bit over, I think it's 1,300 records in there, but we're active with about 400 donors a year. So that's that big gap that I'm trying to figure out what happened to those other 600 people that used to be here that have fallen off of our record engagement.
Okay, gotcha. All right. All right, I'm gonna go through these real fast, Gabby, all right? As fast as I can. Identifying your prospects, which is kind of dovetailed. Now, this is not necessarily with regards to acquiring new donors, but it could be, but it's also dealing with your existing database, right? Who are your current donors? Can you even tell? Who are your lapse donors? What is a lapse donor? Is it just people who haven't given this year, but gave last year? And then qualifying their giving level, that is a huge one. What you don't want to do is ask $20 from someone who could give you 10,000. I mean, I've seen it many times before, and that's really where you've got to look at their recency, frequency, and monetary analysis. How much have they given to you in the past, cumulatively, as well as what was their largest single gift? How often are they giving to you? Can your system tell you the frequency of their giving? Are they giving once a year, 10 times a year, once a month? And what was their most recent gift and how much was it for? And using all of that as well as that external data I talked about from the prospect research, which is the next item here, to inform you of making sure you're not leaving money on the table and you're making that right ask to the right person, right? And then the basic strategies of prospect research. I won't go into this. If you do use prospect research, there are some basic strategies we could talk about. We have a partner that's great and be willing to educate you on that too, in terms of looking what components to look at that they have available to you in terms of prospect rating, their gift information, their wealth-based capacity. All right, so if we get to the next one, which is building campaigns, Gabby, there we go. All right, so your donor relationship management system solution should allow you to at least do the following here in terms of being able to manage and track major major fundraising initiatives, right? Being able to track goals, not only overall goals, but goals for your solicitors. Having a gift range chart to really be able to back out, how many prospects and donors do we need at each giving level that we've defined to reach that goal. That's really important too, to be able to really accurately assess how much money you're going to truly be able to raise. Can you track your prospects through the donor life cycle, the cultivation stages of solicitation and stewardship? Do you and the activities of those solicitors through those phases? Can you segment your data like I talked about earlier? And then can you really understand and leverage the relationships and connections between your prospects and donors? All right, so if we go to the next slide, optimizing giving with brand-only giving pages. You saw Geovanny's example, which was great. She had a recurring giving page. We offer unlimited donation pages. A really great thing to do too on your donation pages is have recommended donation amounts. You have that option with us. You can set those amounts to whatever you want. People are more likely to just click on an amount versus putting in a custom amount, which is usually a good thing. Having a recurring gift option on your one-time donation page is really nice option too. You'd be surprised some of those people that are one-time donors might just become sustaining donors by checking that recurring giving option. And then giving other ways to give, right? Through giving in honor and memorial gifts online. That's another nice way to attract new donors as well. Can you do matching gifts? We have integration with a company called Double the Donation that allows you to very easily find out if the company someone works for has matching donations and have that automatically submitted to Double the Donation, where you can easily get those matching gifts. Can you take pledges and payments online? A lot of campaigns have pledges and payments. Can you facilitate the ease of making those pledges and payments online, like Arreva can? And then covering the processing fee. We found our clients are now almost 90% of our donors for our clients are opting to cover the processing fees, which is huge for them. And you should have that option. And if you do have that option, we recommend you have it checked by default because people tend to just leave it checked, which is great. All right, Gabby, how are we doing? Any more questions before I start going into?
We did have
good?
one about
Okay.
databases again.
Yeah.
This comes from Alexander. He wants to know, do your clients present you with databases that are under 5,000 records, and do you have clients with 10,000 plus records?
We have clients across the board. Yes, we have clients with, gosh, not as many, but we have clients under 1,000 records actually. But we also have clients that have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of records. We have the largest Ronald McDonald House in the world. I think they have, 150, 200,000. We have another organization that has over 400,000 records, millions of gifts. So yes, not a problem. But we also have very small organizations. Our pricing is based off of record count, how many records you have. So so if you don't have that many records, you're going to pay a lot less than someone who has more records, right? Any more questions, Gabby? We're good?
There is one more question. How do you
Okay.
get a periodic/recurring donation page created?
Yeah, there's two ways for us. For Arreva, it depends on the solution you're using. For us, it's included with the basic product. You can have as many one-time donation pages as you want. You can, and within a donation page, you can put a recurring option into that, or you can create as Geovanny had, you can create a separate page that's just for recurring donations and allows people to sign up there as well. So for us, you have some options in terms of how you implement it.
Great.
Okay, I'm gonna keep going.
Yes.
Multiple ways to get peer-to-peer fundraising is another way to not only acquire new donors, but really leverage the relationships, because it's a way to engage and retain existing donors, but also get new ones. You tap into these existing communities and you amplify the connections between your supporters and who they know, their audiences, right? To get to those people outside of your own sphere, your connections, right? It's also a way for people that may want to help raise money on your behalf do it in maybe a less not confrontational, that's not the right word, but a less intimidating way. Instead of going in and then meeting people, having lunch with them, they could set up a peer-to-peer page and send it to their friends via social media, email, whatever, and say, hey, would you mind supporting this initiative at our nonprofit. So it's peer-to-peer is a great way to do that. If we get to the next one, which is, I believe, team fundraising, which is similar to peer-to-peer, although there's that team element, right? It's a walkathon, runs, etc. We have solutions to manage that as well. There's that gamification piece of it too. It's more competitive. This is also just like peer-to-peer, another great way to acquire new donors and reach audiences outside of your own connections and your own sphere of influence that you have, right? Again, that's another fully integrated solution into our donor relationship management piece. Another thing to mention real quick is text-based fundraising. If you're not doing it, you should. Arreva has it. It's built into the product. There's two ways for people that use our solution to text people. One is to just put up a keyword and a short code, like you see here, text clubs 271760. We have a client here in California that had a relationship with a professional Major League Baseball team, and they were able to put that text, they were able to put that keyword and that short code up on the jumbotron during the ball games and get a lot of donations. It just, as soon as they put that in and text it, it points them right to a donation form. And really, the reason SMS is more important too is because people read their texts more often, and it's also that demographic skews younger. Younger prospects are about twice as likely to use their phone to give. So you got to give people as many avenues as they can to give. All right. And then almost done, right? Next slide. There you go.
Yeah, so thank you, Chris. Thank you, Geovanny. Thank you, Kendra. This is a great session. If you saw anything, I know there were a lot of questions about databases and software. If you saw anything that you would like to learn more about, we can go ahead and set up a time to meet one-on-one with you for a tailored consultation and demo to hear what your biggest struggles are and how we can maybe help you. I'll leave this poll up, but I'll let Chris continue walking us through just a little bit more about Arreva and some of the solutions we provide.
Yeah, absolutely. We do see challenges all the time from our clients and from our prospects. We're using these siloed point solutions, right? And they're just wasting too much time and being less efficient because they're having to figure out how to move data between these different things, right? Different solutions. And their applications are not automated. We have a lot of automation that makes things easier. You can schedule reports and just have them sent to your inbox. You can automate those thank yous and et cetera. And really that limited communication between donors and organizations, tracking the engagement, your donor engagement experiences, knowing how engaged they are with your organization, that helps you identify what their affinity is for your organization and potentially what their capacity to give is. So we see a lot of these challenges. The average client coming to us has 3 to 5 different databases that we combine into one, where they can get all the intelligence now and their 360-degree view of their constituents in one solution like ours. And here's a nice infographic. This gives you a quick idea of all the different types of data that we can manage. All right, go ahead, Gabby.
Yes, okay. Well, thank you everyone for attending our session today. Thank you, Geovanny. Thank you, Kendra. Thank you, Chris. Presented some great information. You will receive a recorded copy of the session today and a copy of the presentation deck, so no need to worry about that. If you did want to learn any information, please go ahead and click yes on the screen and we'll be sure to get in contact with you. We do have some questions if you guys have some more time to stay on. Go through here. I did see one question for Kendra. Kendra, can you share a little bit more about your committee that you have for your events and kind of what that is? And yeah.
Sure. So host committee, we actually have a letter that explains exactly what it is. I can probably email it to you if you want to drop that in the comments. So we mail it to the person initially or hand deliver it, depending on how well we know this person, that just outlines like, this is what our event is. We'd like to have you join host committee. Host committee, this is what the commitment is. We're going to put your name on the invitation. We'd like you to come to one meeting. We usually have that meeting in November. So we start sending out these letters, September, October. We're going to ask you to either buy a table and fill it with people, or get a cohort together to do that. and promote it among your circle. And that's it. So soft ask. They can say yes or no. I've had people come back and say, well, I'd really like to do this, but you know, I'm not going to be in town. Does that matter? Well, if you're still going to sell a table and you still want your name on it, it's fine with me. If you're important enough, I'll gladly put your name on it. It's pretty soft. It's pretty negotiable. Some people will say, oh, well, you know, not this year. Ask me next year. It's really low commitment, but it has really grown our circle. So
Great. And then this is a question for both panelists. Are you doing a lot of direct mail or have you transitioned to online?
In our world, we do 2 direct mails a year, and most everything else is online or personal face-to-face ask.
So we do 3 print newsletters a year. One is an impact report. We do, you know, the end of the year mailing, and then we do a Thanksgiving card and a Valentine's Day card to everybody.
Great. And then Kendra, a couple more questions about the host committee. How large is your host committee?
So it was 15 different couples this year, so 30 people total. Some of those couples, like each independently, are big people in town in their own arenas. Some of those people are like, oh, well, my wife's name is on there and I like hers first. That's fine.
Great. And then we have some more questions. I think, Chris, this question is about moving data. Can you move data from CSV files into Arreva?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. You can also, we also have an importer, a data importer that allows you to bring CSV/Excel files into our solution as well. But what we can do that for you, or we can guide you on how to do it. Yep.
And then with the donors covering the processing fees, what percentage do you charge for processing fees, and how long does that money take to arrive to the nonprofit?
The merchant accounts are typically 2 to 3% rates, and the way the merchant account is owned by the organization, not us. The money gets directly deposited into your bank account, our organization's bank accounts, and we never see it. And it happens with it's the same day. So all those deposits are happening daily. Yeah.
I think the one thing I would add for people, the peer-to-peer, right? That's the beauty of doing it through Arreva versus like you're doing a Facebook activity where Facebook collects all that money, sits on it for 6 months before it arrives to the organization. And you can still share it on Facebook, but not do it through Facebook if you're on Arreva, the way the peer-to-peer works. So.
Great point. All right. Well, I think those are all of our questions for right now. Thank you everyone so much for attending today. You will receive a recorded copy of the session after. Thank you, Kendra. Thank you, Geovanny. And thank you, Chris, for all of your great feedback for today.